I used to work at a security company with a bunch of friends. We all got along well, and most of us even hung out after work. The ones I didn't hang out with kept to themselves. There were 2 brothers that worked nights with me, and they were their own group. They were new to the company, and would have many conversations about their guns. Bill was the older brother, and Luke was the younger. After hearing Luke and Bill talk about target shooting so much, I developed an interest. I don't own a single firearm, but my roommate owns several. I mentioned at work one night that I was going shooting in the morning with my roommate, and I needed a good place to go. Well, the 2 brothers pointed out a spot on Google Earth for me, and said it was great, and they have shot up there once before. It was 45 minutes away and higher up in the mountains. I knew the spot precisely due to a single image posted to the coordinates on Google Earth with used shotgun shells covering the ground. I decided that was as good a spot as any and told my roommate Don where to drive us. We arrived the next morning at 10 a.m. and parked at the top of the hill. We saw our spot about 150 yards away in a clearing down in the valley and began hiking down. On a quick side note, I wear this very bright neon yellow hooded sweatshirt at work and during the winter. I am also a pretty large fella. Being big and brightly colored makes you very visible from very far away. I've seen hunters using bright colors to avoid accidentally getting shot by other hunters. I decided to wear my trademark bright hoodie on our little hike. We made it a quarter way down the hill, and I see a group of fellow target shooters at our desired spot. These were the only other people we had seen in 30 minutes. Our spot is taken. Lame, I said. The second I said lame, that's when the shit hits the fan. We are on the side of a mountain, walking down towards them, and the rounds start flying. This group was shooting at us. Don and I were targets for about 3 guns, and we didn't have immediate cover. I see Don running across the mountain, strafing the shooters. I see what he was running for. It was a small plateau about 20 yards next to us. The sounds of bullets flying inches away from my ears is a sound I will never forget. Movies did not do the sound justice at all, not even close. I still get chills thinking about it now. The vibration and rotation of the bullets chilled my bones. It's not a sound I want to hear ever again. It made everything go slow-mo and very clear. My adrenaline was kicking in. We made it to cover and hit the dirt. We were pinned down, but we had cover now. I had to have heard at least 100 rounds pass just over the lip of the plateau. I heard a pistol, a rifle, and a shotgun. I know I did. The trees, boulders, and mountainside were being hammered by round after round. If we set up from our cover, we'd have been shot in the face. These people were shooting up a hill towards a road. They had their backs to their paper targets. Thinking back on it, my father said I should have yelled down to them to let them know they were shooting at 2 people and to hold their fire. But the thing is, I think they knew they were shooting at us. How could they not? We weren't that far and the mountainside was almost bare. I didn't want to let them know they were close to hitting us. I should have shot back. We had the high ground, but I'm not a killer. We just waited and listened for their footsteps and wanted them to stay where they were. If we were killed, no one would find our bodies out there. 15 minutes went by and the gunfire didn't let up until it just ended. The mountain was quiet again. After 5 more minutes of silence, we checked down the hill. They were gone. We had our guns ready as we scanned the valley down below. Nothing. No more guys, no vehicle, just their garbage left behind. We decided this was a great time to get the hell out of the hills. We made it back to our car and back to our house faster than ever. When I went back to work the next shift, I told the story to everyone. I even thanked Bill for the sweet advice. He apologized for the bad locals and said that's crazy. Another coworker told me Bill and Luke went out shooting the same morning as I did, in the same area. I asked Bill immediately about it, asked him where he went shooting and what guns he brought to shoot. He pointed at the same damned Google Earth image as before. Luke, his friend, and Bill were using a Glock, a .22 rifle, and a 12-gauge shotgun. It was all coming together so quickly. I told him he was a psycho and he almost killed us. He denied shooting at us and even changed his mind about where they were shooting. He said he was actually 2 miles west because his GPS was inaccurate. I knew he was lying, but what could I do? I had no proof. He worked with me for another 2 years before I moved away and never heard from them again. I remember how emotionless he was when he denied shooting at me. He was like a robot. We never spoke of it after the first time. I haven't gone shooting since.
A little backstory before I get to the goods. When I turned 21, an older man approached me in a bar in a very small town that I was living in on the West Coast. The town, although small, was very bubbly and had a great community of people. I chatted with the man who seemed very enthusiastic about meeting me and said things like, "I finally found you," which was really no different than a lot of things men would often say when trying to flirt at a bar. I would later come to find out that what he meant was that he had finally found me thanks to the check-in feature on Facebook. After trying to track my movements somewhat successfully since I turned 18, I would also come to find out in subsequent messages that this man had been obsessed with me after first meeting me at the age of 3. Since I started college, I had moved 7 times for various reasons to different locations and towns surrounding my university, making my exact location hard to pinpoint for any length of time until I finally settled in this small town. Although this man had seemed very eager, I did not think much of it. Since I had just turned 21, I began to frequent bars as a new pastime on the weekends. I soon realized that I would run into this man every single weekend. But then again, I saw all the other regulars every weekend as well, and did not find it odd until I received my first letter. I am now 24 years old, and I have moved to the other side of the country. However, the messages have not stopped. I would like to share all of the letters and messages, starting here with the first letter, dated October 5th, 2012, which he titled, "Hi, CatsForPeace." "Hi Clara, this is Gordon. We met at Bellflower's Tavern. I'm very shy like a deer in the headlights when I see you. I hope this isn't too forward, but the written word is the best way for me to communicate, and I usually go up to see music and not sure when I'll see you next. I looked up Clara, Puget Island, and knew to look for the diner for a description. So here I go. Dear Clara B. Olson, I'm so taken by you that I can't eat, sleep. I'm just crazy in the head for you. I know I may be older, but what is age but a number? I lost my 30s taking care of my grandmother 24/7, 365 days a year for the last 10 years. And the last time I met someone that made me feel like you do was 14 years ago. It lasted 2 years and I know what it feels like to be cheated on. I think you're the most sweetest, beautiful girl I have ever met in forever, and would absolutely love to know you better. And for some unexplained reason, I remember everything about you. Your eyes, hair, what you wore, what you said since I met you for the first time, and you asked me 20 questions and the way you looked at me. I got this burning feeling inside. And then when you said you wanted to play your violin for another 3 hours, and the fact that you love jazz so much, well, those are turn-on words. Music is life, love, and everything I like to speak through music. So if I were to put on a song for you, it would be Why Can't I Be You by The Cure. And then, Going Out of My Head and Night and Day, Sergio Mendes and Brazil 66. Or Do You Think I'm Sexy, Rod Stewart. Feels Like Home, Norah Jones. There is way too much to say in a short letter. I could go on forever. The first night we met, 22nd of September, you gave me a hug and said that I felt good to hug. The world stopped. You said on Saturday the 29th that I looked real good and I nearly melted and was speechless. So much to say, so if I'm on the wrong track, please let me know. and I will back off and we can be friends. Also, you can ask the university or co-op board of directors for a Richard Morris. He has known me since I was born, and was my mom's first husband and was a professor in anthropology at UW. So you can check me out. Here's my phone number and my address. Love and music, sincerely, Gordon Clark. P.S. Clara, I do not know you well enough to know, and I don't judge, but you are very classy and have poise, and if you are the reserved kind of girl, well, that is not a problem. Make me a reservation. I'm loyal, sweet, gentle, loving, and kind. And unlike your last boyfriend, the blithering idiot, I don't stray or cheat. Some quick updates. I received the messages he sent to my mom regarding me, and it's a gold mine. He reveals that he has been attempting to contact the FBI because he believes I'm in danger. My mom sent the messages and screenshots, so it will take me a while for me to type them all out. Here I will be posting the next set of messages that I received from him. If you missed the first part, here it is. To provide some clarification beforehand, this set of messages will include some information where he says he met me when I was 15. In later messages, he clarifies that this was when we met again, sort of like our newfound opportunity at being together after he first became obsessed with me when I was 3. From what I can gather, he must have been tracking my mother's movements when I was a child in order to have encounters with me until he lost track of me for a while when I moved out of my parents' house and changed my name on Facebook. I believe that when he refers to meeting me again, he is talking about the next time he was able to locate me after I changed living situations. Neither my mother nor I know how this happened. She is horrified. P.S. The third message in this installment states that he is heartbroken and that he will have to let me go. Don't fret. It only took him exactly 24 hours and 2 minutes before he couldn't resist contacting me again. Hi Clara. I have no idea if you read my letter to you or not, but if you did and tried texting me with a response, I don't have a cell. It's a home phone. Also, if you did read it and it made you uncomfortable, I apologize. Gordon. CatsForPeace, 8664 Broadview, Nebraska, is where we first met in 2006. Do you remember Torn Reality? And then again 6 years later at Bellflower's Tavern. Please read. Dear Clara, I had to kind of unfriend you because of feelings that had developed after talking with you about all sorts of stuff and getting to you and your interest at Bellflower's Tavern. When I first met you at 15 in Spokane, at your Uncle Tom's house, with my grandmother Laura's aunt, I was totally taken by you and hoped you were right about us meeting again someday. And wouldn't you know, it was 6 years later and we did at Bellflower's Tavern, where yes, once again, I felt very hard for you and then put together after you changed your name on Facebook to Clara B. That triggered my memory and I realized you were the same girl, and thought that if you came back to work at the diner that I might have the chance to go with you. You said 2 years is not that long, and so like an idiot I've held on to the chance to be with you for 2 years. Yeah, crazy. But when we talked, the rest of the world went quiet. And when you said all those nice things to me, and said I felt good to hug, you made me feel like the only person in the room. I sent many messages before and well, never got an answer. So after hoping for so long and realized you might not come back, and it looks like you have a boyfriend now, I just feel as though I have to let this crazy idea in my heart go. So please don't be mad, but this is just the way I need to handle my emotions and let you go. This was an extremely hard decision to make for me, but now I have to. No idea if you were interested in me or not. So I'm feeling 100% heartbroken about this, and I hope you can understand. Who knows what the future holds? You're the one who can see things in the future. Once again, here's my number. Sincerely, Gordon Clark. In this next set of messages, we find out the truth about how my stalker first became infatuated with me at the age of 3. I pick up where I left off in part 2, where this man couldn't resist in contacting me again, sending his next message exactly 24 hours and 2 minutes after telling me he was letting me go. Did I mention that he believes I'm clairvoyant? Clara, here is a picture of my grandmother. Do you know who the other lady is? I know you promised, so I no reply. I feel like a fool. I'll still wait for you. I hope you are true. Clara, your premonition came half true. We did meet again, and I did fall for you completely again, unaware. The second time before you left, you said it's true to believe you, and that you would come back to your workplace. I think you said between May to August of 15. You said wait for you. I have completely been loyal to this notion, even though you have not replied. I have not dated or hooked up with anyone. I feel heartbroken now, and at a loss. Do I just try and forget about us being together, or move on? Please let me know. Or do I just wait to be crushed? You need to say something even if you don't want to be with me. It's not fair to leave me hanging like this for so long. Gordon. In 1994, Seattle, I was hanging with your older brother at the mall. He was babysitting you. He and I met because the bus driver left me for 8 hours stranded to wait for the next bus. Your brother was skateboarding down by the depot and said he could help find a cool place to hang out. And the buses were free, but first he had to pick up his little sister Clara at his mom's and stepdad's house. And then we could go to the mall and hang out. He said his sister might have mental problems because she is convinced she can see people's future, but you were only 3, and he said to go along with whatever fantasy you had. That day, your fantasy was when you got older we would meet again and get married, that I was going to be your husband and you were telling everybody at the mall, and your brother had to tell people we were going along with your fantasy. Remember that? I have a perfect memory. Ask your brother. This is a true story. Then again, you were convinced at Uncle Tom's, then at Bellflower's Tavern. We are connected somehow by some crazy force, Clara, and I am really not crazy. You know this to be true. You have to know. Well, I guess I'll wait. Sincerely, Gordon. Here is the 10th letter I have received from my stalker, but not the last. I am posting this one by itself because its content is truly disturbing. It is dated January 20th, 2015. The previous messages span from late 2012 up until late 2014. All personal information has been altered. Clara, remember when you were 3 standing on my feet, dancing with me, looking up and holding my hands and saying it was the happiest day of your little life so far? I do. Do you remember sitting on the bench holding my left arm and laying on my shoulder and telling people we were getting married, and your brother telling people your problem so I didn't get in trouble? I do. I'll keep telling more of the story that day later. Also, you said I would be a rock star guitar player. I have played 12 to 8 hours a day since I met you the 3rd time. I'm becoming one of the best ever, just like all the guitar gods I worship. I'm so damn crazy in love with you that I have been faithfully waiting for you since you were 15. And you were the first girl I met, the first time I had been out since my Nana passed. And so I didn't have to go find you yet. See you when you're ready. Love, Gordon. Hugs and kisses. You could call landline, no text. Here's my number. Also, it was 115 degrees that day. Again, love, Gordon.
In the summer of 2012, I was 22 and had just graduated from college. I got my first teaching job, but it was on the other side of the country, so me and my boyfriend at the time packed up and moved. Obviously, we didn't know anybody here. My ex, being a very social type, immediately started making friends at the pizza restaurant where he worked. This one guy, Mike, was a little younger than us and just starting out on his own, living with his best friend John, who also worked at the pizza restaurant, and John's girlfriend. Mike came over to hang out with us frequently, and it soon became clear that things were not working out very well with him and John. They weren't getting along, and he seemed very upset about it. The way he explained things, my ex and I felt very bad for him. We happened to have an extra room in our apartment, so within a couple months, we let Mike stay with us. This turned out to be a terrible decision, and we soon found out the truth about why things hadn't worked out with him and John. Mike was a terrible roommate. He would stay up all night in the living room, listening to loud, crappy music, never clean up after his little chihuahua, and ate all of our food. These are pretty typical problems with bad roommates, right? Well, it got worse. He ended up stealing money from me, which he already owed quite a bit from the first month, and quitting his job. He got another one quickly, and I told him that he had to pay me back with his first paycheck. The day he was supposed to get paid, he did not come home. He stayed gone for 3 or 4 days, to the point where we were actually a little worried that something might have happened to him, as we also weren't able to get a hold of him, and he had left his dog as well. We called the local jail and the hospital, but he wasn't there. Then we thought to call his work and see if he had been showing up for his shifts, and they said that he had. We then knew that he was intentionally avoiding us. The next night, he came knocking at the door. My ex answered, but wouldn't let him in. He said that he didn't have any money, but he wanted to explain what happened. Still not being let inside, he told my ex that he had drugs he could give him instead. My ex shut the door in his face and told him to get the money he owed us and then come collect his things and dog. A few days later, his brother showed up and paid us what Mike owed us and got his stuff. It was almost a year later, spring 2014, that my ex started getting texts from Mike asking to hang out. These texts were promptly ignored, though they continued sporadically for a while. They stopped after about a month or two. It wasn't until recently I heard from a mutual acquaintance that in December of last year, Mike had been arrested for first-degree murder. Apparently, he had been living with an old man on the other side of town. An elderly neighbor lady called the cops for a welfare check because she hadn't seen the man at all for a few days. When they checked, they found the man dead from blunt force trauma with a hammer still lodged in his forehead, and Mike was nowhere to be found. They soon located him in one of the jails where he had turned himself in for a warrant the day before. Probably so they would think he couldn't have killed the man. Apparently, he had also had the cops called for attacking the neighbor lady before. He is still in jail as of today.
In the 80s, my aunt used to volunteer at a prison teaching inmates how to read. She was an elementary school teacher and cared a lot about education. She did this for a long time, until one of the prisoners became infatuated with her. It started out small, by complimenting her, but then he began to tell her how in love with her he was, and how he was planning a life for them outside of prison. My aunt told the guards all of this, and they suggested she stop volunteering at the prison. On occasion, she would get phone calls from the prison, and love letters. She would not accept his calls and didn't return his letters either. She went about her life ignoring him because he was behind bars and couldn't hurt her, until he escaped from prison. My aunt was out of town and got a call that he had escaped. She called the local police immediately and asked them to check her house with her when she returned. My aunt lives alone in a ranch-style house, so the police surveyed the outside, the basement, and the main floor and found nothing. Her home security system was intact as well. She had a friend stay over that night, and everything seemed okay. Around 1 a.m., they heard scratching noises and called the police. They thought the noises were coming from her mother's empty bedroom. The police searched the outside of the house and the bedroom, and found nothing. Around 2:30, they heard scratching noises once again, and also the sounds of footsteps. The police then checked the attic, which was more like a crawl space that my aunt used for storage. They found the prisoner crouched behind a box with a screwdriver, hacksaw blade, and 2 blades from a pair of hedge cutters. He got into the house by slitting a window screen that gave him access to the attic. He is still in prison and will be until he dies. I've told this story to my friends, and they've asked a lot of questions, so I'll try to answer some frequent ones. He knew where she lived because it was the 80s, and people's addresses were in the phone books. Apparently, he just wandered off the prison farm and hitchhiked to my town. I don't know who would pick up a prisoner, but it happened. The attic window is tiny. I don't know why the police didn't check on their first 2 sweeps. but I think they just ruled it out as impossible for anyone to get into it. The screen didn't look slit when they did their outside scan. Their first scan was also at 11 p.m. My aunt still lives in that house. She loves her home and she's a pretty tough woman if you haven't gathered that already. She's very independent.